Well, the shakeups in Las Vegas continue. Head coach, GM out, and now things are changing at the QB position. The team reportedly benching their QB, Jimmy Garoppolo, and they are now prepared to move forward this season with the rookie Aiden O'Connell. The decision coming after Jimmy G struggled mightily against the Lions. He leads the league with 9 interceptions so far this year. Of course, there's also a coaching change going on. Our NFL insider Jonathan Jones putting this tweet out here saying that the Raiders saying they are committed to a comprehensive search for a head coach after the season. They can virtually interview coaches after the season ends, but anything in person will have to wait nearly 12 weeks. We now bring in the man who put that tweet out there, JJ here in the flesh, and the Raiders saying that they're going to conduct that comprehensive search, but maybe some new rules that are in place now that can complicate those things. JJ, what are those and how will it affect the Raiders?
Well, it's going to impact the Raiders because with this new rule that was just voted on and approved by NFL owners, in-person head coach interviews with candidates who are employed by other teams, well, that can't be done until after the divisional round of the playoffs. Last year was after the wild card round. This year and for the next 2 years, it will be after the divisional round. So you're looking at the week of January 22nd, mid to late January, of when the Raiders can actually really get someone in their building to speak with. Now, of course, they can interview virtually with candidates. They will be able to interview folks who are not employed by an NFL team. And so perhaps an out-of-work coach, for example, they could do that. But suffice it to say that even though they may have gotten a head start on their head coaching search, they really can't do anything or really get closer to finding their next head coach for another 11 and a half weeks. Also, interestingly enough, when you go back to it, when they had Rich Bisaccia as their interim head coach after John Gruden resigned, they now bring on Antonio Pierce, and they say we're going to run a comprehensive search before he even begins the job. So I guess he has no shot at getting the job. So just an interesting way to go about this. The Raiders obviously firing the head coach and general manager on Halloween night on a short week, hours after the trade deadline, and then promising to run a comprehensive search while essentially giving the interim coach, who they hand the reins over, very little chance or hope at getting the head coaching position.
Seems like just a lot of interesting movements in the way that they do things in Vegas. Certainly might raise your eye a little bit. Another eye-raising potential is Tom Brady. What is his role with the Raiders, and how much do you think his thought process is affecting what Mark Davis does?
So I'm not sure what his thought process currently impacts what Mark Davis does, or at least what Mark Davis did on Tuesday. But I certainly am led to believe via sources that Tom Brady, as well as common sense, that Tom Brady is going to be involved in the process in looking for a new head coach and potentially a general manager. First of all, Tom Brady, while not officially attached to the Raiders in a capacity, has become a confidant of Mark Davis's. Mark Davis certainly looks up to Tom Brady as the GOAT, as someone who knows a world about football that he does not. And of course, he tried to get Tom Brady a sweetheart deal to be a part owner of the team, and it didn't even have to be voted upon by other NFL owners because it was too great of a deal. The price, the discount was too great for the valuation of the Raiders, that the NFL was never going to let that happen. And so that is still in a wait and see process. But Tom Brady is essentially, whether he is under contract or an employee of the team, somewhat of an ambassador, if you will. And so I believe that Mark Davis is going to lean on Tom Brady. If you go back to when Mark Davis hired Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler as head coach and general manager, and that sort of pairing, there was a group of people he relied upon, and it was Ken Hirock, who has been a longtime Raider. It was Tom Delaney, who's an SVP there with the Raiders. It was also Dan Ventrelli, who at the time was the team president, has since left the organization. And so I would anticipate that Mark Davis would continue to lean on those former two, Hirock and Delaney, as well as take wisdom from Tom Brady and hopefully, potentially, the new team president, Sandra Douglas Morgan, who joined just a couple of years ago. So in looking at that, that should be part of, if not the entire brain trust that makes this next decision for the future of the Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, the future is still to be determined, and then you look at the same way for the season. A lot of football still to be played. You look back at 2 years ago, Raiders, after John Gruden leaves the team in the middle of the season, they go on to make the playoffs with an interim coach. Different interim coach this year, different circumstances, but is there a chance that Vegas can salvage the season now under Antonio Pierce?
We'll see. Look, they're not that bad of a team. And talking with folks around the league and watching them play, you know, they were close with the Lions game. You have to imagine if they had better quarterback play that they'd be able to get a little bit closer. Obviously, the numbers, certainly on offense, are way, way down, right? Jimmy Garoppolo has not worked out. Devontae Adams has not been able to get the football the way that he should. Josh Jacobs was slowed at the beginning of the season by his inactivity in the preseason as they tried to work out the contract. There are a number of excuses, but ultimately halfway through the season at this point, you're out of excuses. So what are the Raiders going to do now? We can report that they are going to start Aiden O'Connell at quarterback, the rookie who had a really good preseason but didn't fare all that well in spot duty and starting duty when he was thrust into it earlier this season. But it will be Aiden O'Connell this upcoming week. And it very well may be Aiden O'Connell for the rest of the season. Consider that Jimmy Garoppolo has been ineffective as a starting quarterback. He's really played the worst football of his entire career. Consider, of course, that the Raiders fired not only Josh McDaniels, but also Mick Lombardi, the offensive coordinator, who didn't even call plays. And they have promoted Bo Hardigree to offensive coordinator. So clearly Mark Davis wants things done differently at the quarterback position and offensively. What does it mean for Jimmy Garoppolo's future? Obviously, he signed that long-term contract with the Raiders in the offseason, but the Raiders can absolutely get out of that this upcoming offseason. I would not at all be surprised to not see Jimmy Garoppolo take the field again this year, because while his base salary of $11.25 million is guaranteed for next year, there's another $11.25 million that is guaranteed for injury next year. So if he were to get injured this season, that also triggers, and the Raiders would not want that to take place. I do not anticipate he will be on the roster on the 5th day of the league year, so we're talking mid-March of next year. Very clearly, this is a new day, the beginning of a new day with the Las Vegas Raiders, and I highly, highly doubt that it's going to be involving Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yes, it'll be a tryout stance for Aiden O'Connell to see what he can do probably for the remainder of the season. JJ, with all the latest news surrounding the changing landscape of the Raiders, thank you so much for your time. We see the Raiders schedule going forward from here. Maybe a chance to make a little bit of noise against the Giants here in Week 9, and then the Jets. A bye on Week 13 and maybe circle the wagons and figure things out, because at 3-5, still a chance to get the season figured out.